Jace, I'm very excited to have you join us here on the #1 college football show. Jace Sternberger, former Texas A&M tight end and All-American, and now Birmingham Stallions tight end, man. How you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Right on, bro. Let's get started with what I thought was a breakout performance for you to start in week 1, where you're catching passes from your dude, Alex Magoo, and everybody's trying to figure out where does this chemistry come from, and Coach Holt says to me, oh, yeah, they room together. How much is that figuring into you having some early success this year?
I think it plays a huge factor into it. Anytime, like I said, I had the same. I got the same luck when I was at A&M. Me and Kellen Mond were roommates, so it's just something about being around your quarterback every day, and just that. You just kind of start to you pick up on each other's personalities and certain things, this and that, and it always just it translates over to the football field. So, when I'm asking questions, Alex is kind of knowing like how my brain works, what I'm processing, what I'm thinking, and so it's like, it's easier for him to answer questions for me, and now that I'm hearing Alex's answers, it's easier for me to kind of run my routes based off knowing what Alex is looking for and like, what he likes, what he doesn't like. And so I think, like I said, when you're sleeping in the same room as another person, like you're gonna get, it helps. Obviously, like I said, you spend a lot of time together, so I'd say it played a huge factor into it.
It seems so, dude. And I was kind of jarred when Coach Holt said, look, I told Jace when he got here, you got to pick it up, and you got to pick it up pretty quick because we're not doing addition and subtraction this year. We're on the multiplication division. I'm going, hey, man, Jace is a player. I don't know if you're going to try to run him off or not, but that's not what I would do.
Yeah,
Feels like you were picking it up pretty good, though.
yeah, and like I said, I give credit to some of the former teams I've been on, and just the systems and all the attention to detail that it taught me good study habits, almost study habits I wish I used in school. But now that we're here, so when Coach Holtz from day one was like, we're not going to do the day one install, like this is an older team, everybody's already been here, and it was basically like, I think you're capable enough that if you study and take care of your business, you'll be able to pick it up just fine. And so I kind of looked at it as a challenge, like, well, I'm not about to be the guy that's holding everybody back. Like, oh, we got to redo this for Jace. We got to go back over this for Jace. Like, I did that enough my rookie year in Green Bay. So like, I didn't. That's a horrible feeling. So it's like I didn't want to do that again. And so, like I said, again, being with Alex every night, asking him questions, this and that, and like I said, and once you're back on the field, everything just starts to make sense anyways. So, um, most definitely, like I said, it was an intense camp just learning the playbook just because it's such a short amount of time.
Yeah, you were dealing with a very condensed period to try to get everything installed so that you're playing week 1. I want to say your training camp lasted 3 weeks, if I got that right.
If that.
If that.
3 weeks and some off days, travel days for scrimmages, like, so I mean it's like 15, 14 days really, if we're being honest.
Not nothing like spring practice in college football, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but I'm enjoying hearing you talk about this as a job. It's one of the things that I try to get across to high school kids I still talk to now is this is a day job. That's how you have to treat it. You have to actually go to work to get better. But I want to go back through your journey a little piece by piece here. So allow me. You played JUCO ball at Northeastern Oklahoma, which to those of us that are from Oklahoma is NEO. And we all have
Yep.
friends that played ball at NEO A&M in Miami, Oklahoma. What was your experience like at NEO?
Man, my dad actually played baseball there for a little bit, so like I kind of already everybody, like you said, if you're from Oklahoma, you've always heard stories about NEO. But like I said, I got spoiled. My situation when I got to NEO, it was a team that had already been there for 2 years. So it was a group of, Darwin Thompson. It was guys who had already been in there for a while. And it wasn't like I, I was the oldest guy, it was a fresh face. And like, I was coming onto a team who's like, no, they've already paid their dues. Like it's time to win. All of the coaches, I don't think any of the coaches stayed on staff after that year. Everybody was like, it was it was honestly so refreshing, especially coming from Kansas, like being on a team and being around coaches who were all working towards the same goal. And it was like everybody was trying to get out of there. Like we love NEO, we love the 313, Paradise Hall, our dorm rooms. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all great. Never take that for granted again. Like loved it. But at the same time, we're like, we're not going to be, none of us are going to be here next year. Like, so we got to get with it. We're going to win games and we're going to get out. But man, the stories of off the field and like just getting dinner at random restaurants and just eating the same stuff over and over and just, yeah, it's just, you just kind of got to know if you know, you know. That's the best way I can describe it.
No, that is a great way to put it, but I'm gonna flesh this out. Number one, Darwin Thompson went to Jenks High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and played for the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs. For those of you that don't know, second thing to really say out there is Jace is being kind when he talks about Antioch. I went there for Boys State, which means I was there for about a week, right? And I'm staying in the same dorms, and I remember going, oh, that's why this is a train station, right? People come through here not to live, but to stop to get to the place that they're going. And when it's working well, it's working like Grand Central. And it certainly seemed to work that way for you. But let's talk about how you got to NEO. And I want to go back to high school and work back. So I get to know Jace Sternberger when I'm covering Oklahoma football and recruiting for a rivals team side at the time. And they're like, I want you to go check out this kid at Kingfisher, Oklahoma. And I'm going, Kingfisher? Like, you'll know him when you see him. All right. So I get out there and I'm watching Yellow Jackets football. And I said, oh, yeah. Okay. So the big white dude running around, that's the guy. Cool. I'll go talk to Jace. 14-0 as a senior. And I think 59-6 in 4 years at Kingfisher. What do you remember most about, well, in particular, that state championship team?
The state championship team, I remember, was just like, one, I think I had maybe less than like 15 catch. Like, I didn't even, tight end was like fun for me, but like just being on that defensive team, like that was such a fun defense to be a part of. And like, that was my first year playing defensive end. Like, oh, I just remember Blanchard and just hearing about them all year. Cause I was on, like, my sophomore year, I was on that team, but like, I didn't play. Like, I was a tight end, but like, our old OC, he wasn't on the team that won state, but our old OC was like, oh, their defenses don't do, or their defenses doesn't match up good for tight ends, so we're not going to use a tight end this week. So I was just like, okay, like I guess we're the only offense who doesn't know how to use tight. You know what I'm saying? Like now we just like, okay, this is the kryptonite defense, I guess. So I wasn't even like, oh yeah, I didn't have no emotional ties to that game, but it was like, coming in as the new guy. Now I'm starting to tight end and defensive end. It was like all we were hearing about was Blanchard. I'm like, well, I don't care about any of those guys. Like I wasn't even here when that happened. Kind of how I feel about New Orleans. Like I wasn't here last year, so like all of the stuff that happened last year, like I don't care. Like don't tie me into that. Like you know, and but yeah, I would definitely say just playing defense in high school and just how much fun it was, and playing defensive end and just like I said, and we had Caden Jackson who was a monster for 3A football
Yeah.
on the D line. Like having both of us, and then we had Gatlin Squires, just a hard nosed kid. Like that defense was fun. Like that was really fun.
I had a lot of fun watching y'all play ball. You mentioned Blanchard. This is at a time when I believe I have a stringing credit in every county in Oklahoma, working at the Oklahoman. It's a lot of fun, right? So Blanchard, Lindsay, Kingfisher were all on the beat at one point in time. But you follow that year and go to Kansas, right? Where I believe you're the only player I've ever met who goes from a 14-0 program to an 0-12 program. What was it like
Yeah.
your redshirt freshman year there?
It was like it was. I'm not even like I'm not making fun of the team because I was a part of it, so I'm making fun of myself. But it was like I don't think you could script like a worse ways to lose games. Like I remember my first game, it was like 100 degrees playing South Dakota State. Oh, we're I'm thinking I'm not gonna lie, this is how oblivious I was to like the talent of college football. Like so we get to KU and me and my buddies laugh about this all the time. We get to KU and new coach, he brings in, we didn't have the transfer portal, but we had so many grad transfers. Like we got dudes from the SEC, we got guys from this and that. I genuinely like I laugh about this all the time. I remember calling my dad. I'm like, Dad, I'm telling you, these guys don't know about like how good we're about to be. Like we have these transfers. I'm like, I'm telling you, we're about to wait. Like I was so ignorant and stupid. We go that for. I'm thinking we're gonna blow out South Dakota State. Long story short, we're down like 20 in the first quarters. I'm like, all right, this might be. What I'm saying? This obviously we look good in training camp, but there was a reason for that. I remember that game. We lost that game we were supposed to spike the ball and kick a game-winning field goal, and we muffed the spike, and the clock ran out. And when I say like that was how every game went from case, and we'd have the best. I swear, every week it would be like that. Like you wouldn't want to get your hopes up because after you lose, it's like, all right, that's the mindset. Like it is what it is. But for some reason, I don't know what. And I was registered. I wasn't even playing. By Saturday the next week, I was convinced that we were gonna win. Like I was so convinced we were gonna win. First play of the game, blocked punt, touchdown, lose by 40. So to answer your question, it was interesting. Like it was it was an experience for sure. Like I can't make it up how it was going. Like, I can't make it up.
Well, it's a part of your journey that I really value because you go from there to NEO to work yourself back into a position to get offers from Boise State, Florida State, and Texas A&M. And if I got this right, you are the first commitment for Jimbo Fisher at A&M. What do you remember most about not just becoming an All-American tight end, but in particular, when did you figure out that the Aggie fan base might be as rabid, if not more rabid, than the Sooner fan base?
And another fun fact about me, that's I think it kind of travels with me everywhere I go. I was David Beatty's first commitment too at
That's
Kansas.
right, at Kansas, yeah.
Because I was originally going to go to NEO at a high school, and then literally Colby Ellis was like, "No, you got to take this opportunity. Like, you need to go to like." He convinced me to go to Kansas still, so I was like, "Okay, like you're right, I will." But to answer your question, uh, yeah, I was Jimbo's first commitment. And what part did you ask me about
When
Jimbo?
did you know that the Aggie fan base was as rabid or more than the Sooner fan base?
Oh, as soon as because that was the thing with Coach Fisher and them. They called me when they were at Florida State and like asked if I was interested, blah blah blah, and I was like, of course I'm interested in Florida State. Like, what are you talking about? And like I remember Coach Craig is like, why are you at Kansas? Why didn't you play? Like, did you rob a 7-Eleven? Like, what do you? Is there something we don't know about you?
7-Eleven.
And I was like, no, like I'm telling you, like the in-state schools just they weren't rocking with me. It is what it is. But I noticed how crazy A&M fan base, and crazy by meaning like I said, I'm one of them. I love them. Is that I think my JUCO highlight tape was at like maybe 2,500 views, and that was on a Tuesday. Then when I got the permission, not permission, but I basically told Coach Fisher and them I wasn't gonna post anything. Like I was gonna show my loyalty to them. Like I'm y'all's. I'm not gonna post this. Make a big deal. Once I posted that I was going on a visit and A&M fans found out about me, I remember I was actually going to KU that night to see some old buddies and stuff because we had at JUCO. You know, Miami. That's not a far drive. My huddle views went from like 3,000 that night. By the end of the next day, it was at like 19,000, just because off of one, just off me tweeting I was going there for a visit. By Sunday, I think it got all the way up to 30,000. Like I'm not. It was the craziest experience, like thing I've ever witnessed. I was just like, I mean, this is cool for like the next week, but I mean, obviously, no one's gonna care about this later. But I was like, right now, this is incredible. Like I kept watching my highlight tape. This is like, this is awesome. And so I was already, and I joke about it, but I'm being dead serious. So, you know, like anytime a coach comes to a new program, like they're trying to install the standard, the foundation, what they want it to be. Well, David Beatty came from Texas A&M. Our star transfer wide receiver, Laquivante Gonzalez, he came from Texas A&M. So for 2 whole years at Kansas, all I heard about was how great A&M was, the town, the team, how great the fans are, how amazing all this is. So when Jimbo's like, or Coach Craig was like, I don't know if you keep up with TV, but there's rumors, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just need to hold tight and see what happens. I was like, this is no brainer. I was like, I'm not even gonna like, I'm not gonna think twice about this. And it was just so crazy because I was really about to commit to Boise State, but Coach Patterson, who's now at USF, he's like, Jace, you know, like let your emotional high wear down, like just give it a day or two. You know what I'm saying? Like, just get home, relax. Literally that day, I was letting my emotional high die down. That's when Coach Craig called me from Florida State. So I was just like, all right, this is the sign, you know.
No, man, that's what's up. We're running up on time, but I do want to ask you one more question about your 2018 season, for which you win All-American honors. Really quickly, what stood out to you most about that year that vaulted you into the 3rd round of the NFL draft and started your pro career?
Just that I knew I know I'm not crazy. Like everybody thought I was so crazy for leaving KU and you're going to JUCO. Like, who do you think you are? What are you doing? And then it's like, I went to A&M because I looked at their first 4 games and they played Clemson and Alabama. And I was like, you're either good enough or you're not. Like, at least if you go there and like you'll know, like I played in the best conference. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll see like if you're good enough, you're good enough. If not, you're not. But it was like once I was doing that, I was like, man, like I know I'm not crazy for this. Like that's why I still got that chip on my shoulder because it's like I feel like what I'm going through right now is the same exact thing. It's just I'm in an older body, older situation because it's USFL and not JUCO. Like that's literally my mindset right now for everything.
Hey, man, it served you well, and I hope it serves you well going into the future. Jace Sternberger, former Texas A&M All-American tight end and USFL Birmingham Stallions tight end. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thanks for having me.